Hey guys, it's Sensei Sketches. I hope you guys are having an awesome Halloween so far. Now, I wanted to tell you guys about some scary scenarios I've been in my life, but sadly, I have none to tell. No ghosts have ever come to tuck me in, no demons under my bed to play hide and seek, nothing. Satan, if you're watching this, please do something. I'm really bored. So instead, I'm going to be telling you about the time my horror story got me in trouble. Now, this happened when I was in 7th grade. My homeroom/English teacher was named Mrs. Cox, and she was really super sweet and nice. She had a huge love for these weird, really long curved dogs. I forgot what they're called, I'll probably put it right here. But she was real nice, and I never had anything bad with her until the month of October. Now, my favorite holiday is Halloween, so much so that I immediately start decorating on the first day of August. My grandma won't let me decorate in July. I love the candy, I love the scares, the music.
In this town we call home, everyone hail to the pumpkin song.
Everything. So this Halloween, she gave us an assignment to write the scariest experience we ever had and give it to her right before Halloween. So I racked my whole brain, all my memories, all that junk that I've put back in my brain because it was too scarring, but nothing happened. Nothing I could find that would make me scream or cry or basically be interesting to write in a story that was more than just 3 sentences long. My brain was completely fried. It's not with weed, sadly. I was too young to smoke it. Still, to this day, nothing has happened. If you see me walking down the street, please try to scare me. I need it. So my solution was to make up a scary story, and that sounded realistic enough to be believable. However, this was not the first time I've done this. I actually wrote the same scary story for my 6th grade English teacher the year before. Except that time we got to read it to the entire class, and during this Halloween party, she actually legit brought in a smoke machine, and we all got to bring in a whole bunch of treats and snacks for everyone to eat as they listened to our creepy stories. And it was freaking awesome. Everyone in my group loved my story, and everyone else just kind of like sat there awkwardly talking about some weird experience, not even reading out their paper, as they were munching down on the bag of Doritos I brought. Mrs. Cox did not like my horror story though. I don't know if I made it gorier or creepier once I got into that grade. I don't know if I kept it exactly the same word for word, but if I find a story, I'll read it to you guys so you can tell me what you think. So I rewrote my story word for word, went through the process of checking it, like giving it to your friends to read and circle errors, and everyone I gave it to said that they actually freaking liked it. They said it was creepy as hell. And I was like a young Stephen King writing spooky stories in my basement and stuffing my face with spicy Cheetos. They, of course, asked if anything had actually happened to me, and of course, like the angelic law-abiding child I was, I said yes, all of it was true. So I was finally done, and I turned it in. A few days later, my grandma calls me into the living room where she hangs out on her laptop. Now luckily she's not one of those grandmas that knows absolutely nothing about technology, but she still struggles with the more complex kind of things that aren't really complex. Now my grandma checks me and my sister's grades at least twice a week to make sure we were doing good. I never had a problem with my grades except for math, but I managed to do a D+, so I passed anyway, and my grandma was only a little disappointed. But apparently, she got an email that day from my English teacher, Mrs. Cox, saying that my scary story had a lot of blood and gore and graphic details about my experience, air quotes, and she had asked my grandma if it was true. Now you guys need to listen. My grandma never lies. She hates liars. She hates it when others do it. She is a die-hard Christian grandmother that raised me and my sister to be the same, though we are really not. So I knew if I lied, I would get a huge whooping for a really long grounding time. So I told her the truth, and she told me that I had to go to school the next day and apologize to Mrs. Cox for lying to her, and that she would email her that I was to apologize to her, or my would be grass. And Mrs. Cox was supposed to email her back as a notification of my apology. I was like sitting in the middle of a courtroom and a judge was telling me to either do this or die. So for the rest of the night, I stayed up, unable to sleep, with all the anxiety of apologizing to my teacher in a way so that no other kid could hear. Because in Black Hawk, if you showed any weakness in there, you would become the whole school's punching bag of insults. Now, I was already bullied so bad that not even the teachers would save my butt. They would just ignore it or tell me to leave them alone. I'm getting off topic. The next day I go into class, Mrs. Cox doesn't even look at me. I'm usually the first one in class, and she always says good morning to me like normal teachers do, but not today. No, I'm having a panic attack inside my chest for the fact that she didn't even say hi. My heart is thumping, my lungs are closing, I can't stop shaking. At this point, I thought that this was the scariest moment of my life. I should have just wrote the story about what could have happened if I lied. Every anxiety person is a nightmare. So after homeroom, we start school, and of course, English is my first subject. Class goes on as usual, and at this point, I notice that she is completely ignoring me. She doesn't call on me when I raise my hand. She doesn't look at me when she gives me papers. The total silent treatment. On other days, this would have been freaking heaven. I would have loved to be completely ignored by my teacher. But considering the circumstances, I was freaking the hell out. So nearing the end of class, all the kids were talking and the bell was about to ring, and I saw this as my opportunity to say sorry without other kids hearing me. So as the grandma-fearing woman I was, I sucked it up and walked over to her. Again, I try my best to start a conversation with her, to kind of slip in an apology to her in a way that wasn't really convenient. Again, she only answers with slight words like yes or no, or just shakes her head. Eventually, I just say, look, I'm sorry for writing that scary story. None of it was true, and I wrote it because nothing scary ever happened to me. I'm sorry if it was too gory or if I scared you in any way. Finally, she answers back. That is alright. You should have just told me and I would have let you make up one. However, it was a good horror story. You should keep writing. What the f***? I worried all the time, got no sleep, and shivered at my grandma the whole fucking day because you said it was too gory and you tell me you liked it. Looking back, I figured that she was just worried about my mental state because I guess it was a little dark for a 12-year-old to come up with. So my grandma actually got the email, we were all good, and I promised not to lie to her or to another teacher ever again. Which, I admit, was a lie in itself. Because the only thing I learned that day is that you are going to be a liar, at least be a good one, and know that you can back it up. Don't take advice from me. You will get a horrible life out of that. Well, that's it for this quick draw. I'll be putting the horror story I wrote in another video, if I can find it. I don't know where I put it. Thank you guys for listening. If you wanted to hear more, please hug that subscribe button really, really hard. If you want to check out more of my art, there is a link to it in the description down below. Sensei Sketches, out.